Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Christian Indie Artists and Songwriters Podcast. I'm your host, Brian, and on today's episode, well, we've got some making up to do because I have been out for, I think, 3 weeks. We haven't posted an episode yet, and that's for good reason, and we'll get to that. But first thing I wanted to say was that one thing that we missed, which I'm sad that we missed it, but it's okay because we're still cruising, we're still moving along, is we missed our 1-year CIAS podcast anniversary. And that happened on September 10th of this month. And there's so much to celebrate. It's amazing to see, I check the stats on the podcast and see all that God has done through the past year. And it's incredible. Honestly, we're getting close to 8,000 total downloads. And I did a little bit of math, and that averages out to about 27 listens per day, every day for the past 365 days and counting now that we're past the anniversary as the numbers have grown since then. So it's incredible because if you think each episode is approximately 20 to 30 minutes times 27, I mean, that's a lot of minutes spent digging into these interviews and these encouragements. And I hope that you have enjoyed every minute that you've been a part of it, whether this is the first time you've listened or you're deep into the catalog with us. Just so glad you're here and so happy to know that you are taking the steps into diving deeper into your music journey, because this podcast exists for that. As we say in the beginning in every episode, this podcast exists to help Christian indie artists and songwriters get songs heard. And that comes through a lot of different ways. As you know, sometimes we talk about interviews with great guests about their music journey or their tips and their tricks and strategies, or it might be a solo episode where I'm just giving you some encouragement or some strategies or tips from my own personal experience, because I personally have been releasing music. Interestingly enough, my artist release of my Brian Bolivar artistry started back in 2018 on September 7th. So almost the same day as the podcast anniversary, just a couple years later. So I've been releasing music for over 3 years now. Honestly, I've been releasing music for a lot longer than that, but in this new capacity with CCM and worship as my own artistry. And the podcast is a part of that, and I hopefully use it to help share everything that I've learned along the way and continue to learn along the way to help you on your journey. So, congratulations, happy anniversary, whether you've been listening from the very first episode or you just jumped on now, like I said before. We're happy to have you and to continue on this journey with you. So it's been an incredible year. So sad that we missed it. But the reason that we missed that episode and also the past few weeks is because I got COVID super bad. I mean, really bad. Like, I was on the couch for 2 weeks straight, basically. And the thing that was weird is the more that I rested, it didn't do anything. I would just kind of go from this couch behind me to the bed to another couch in our house and just sort of rotate. I'd sit outside too sometimes just to mix it up and keep things interesting. But honestly, it was like a dream, and I'm glad it's over. I'm so glad it's over, but it was tough. And the thing that was the saddest of all was I got it the very beginning of September. And then it wasn't until like a week later when my wife Susie got it. And then she went down in a similar fashion to me, but it was like a week later. So the kids were home with us. So we were kind of doing homeschool while my wife was on the couch, kind of out of it. I wasn't feeling very good at all, but I was doing everything I could to make sure the kids were happy and healthy and fed. And we had incredible family and friends dropping us off food and stuff all the time. We basically would just get like knocks on the door throughout the day, and there'd be something there that we needed desperately. And so we're so thankful for that. It was great in that way. And truthfully, this is something I kind of wanted to dig into on this episode, was that things like COVID, it doesn't have to be COVID because that was extreme, but I feel like there are great reasons to really evaluate what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so all that to say, when I decided that I wasn't necessarily going to pick everything back up that was holding when COVID kind of took me down. And a lot of that stuff is just me personally on my own scheduling and the way I'm approaching things. But I think it's a great time, and it could be a good thing. It could be when you're on vacation. It didn't have to be a sickness like I experienced, but I think it's really good to kind of do an audit every once in a while on what are we doing and can we do it better? And are there parts of it that have kind of maybe seem like a good idea? We just kind of do things because we do things, but the next thing you know, you do things and you're like, why am I doing that? Like, I don't know. I just do that. That's just what I do. Do we really need to do everything that we're doing to make sure that we're kind of going on the path. And I don't think so. I think that things change along the way. I think we might start things and then maybe they have a time and purpose in a season, but then they kind of fizzle out possibly, or they grow into something new entirely. So my COVID experience is I didn't want to pick everything back up that I was holding when I went down. So the result of that will be things that will keep kind of rolling out as we go, but the podcast is a very important part of what we do, and I feel personally compelled to continue on this. So the podcast isn't going anywhere. We're going to keep doing this weekly thing to get content out there to you, to help you on your journey. It's really important. So, like I mentioned, one of the things that's interesting about my COVID experience and our COVID experience in the house is that people were reaching out and people were sending prayers and people, like I said, were dropping off food and supplies and things we needed. And not so much because, if you're anything like me, you maybe have a lot of friends that you met kind of through the internet, and they're people that you co-write with and the people that you work with, but they don't necessarily live in your town locally. If they do, that's amazing and awesome. But in my case, most of the people that I know are kind of spread out all over the place. But one thing I was noticing is people started kind of texting me and encouraging me and praying for me was that a lot of those people were actually people that I co-write with frequently. And what God kind of revealed to me is that co-writers are really just friends that you write songs with over time. Now, not every single co-writer is going to be your best friend, maybe. Not every single co-writer is going to, check up on you when you're sick. Maybe they will. That's awesome. But in my experience, I just started noticing that the people that were reaching out to me are the people that I tend to write with a lot. So if you're out there and you're feeling alone and you're like, how do I write songs? How do I get songs out into the world? This is just difficult. Where do I even start? Well, I always say to start at our CIAS Facebook group because that's a place of community and a safe place where you can reach out and ask for people to write with. And I know that there's tons of people that write with each other within that group. And that's a great place to start if you don't know where to go. There's a lot of other great Facebook groups out there in general. There's a lot of great events you can attend. But if you just want to go, obviously the link will be below. You can click and go check out the group and ask to join, and we'll let you in because we want to support and help you on your journey. But it's just something I started noticing is, like I've said in the past, my journey kind of started in 2017 where I went to Nashville, and that's where I met a lot of people, and all of that, everything we're doing now is kind of a result of that. But so many of my friends who were checking up on me while I was sick were people that I write with and people that I work with, and people that I know, and people that I call friend. And a lot of those relationships started in some sort of random, awkward co-writing situation where maybe I didn't know them, maybe I knew their name or whatever, but now, years, months later, whatever, they're friends and they care and we care about each other, and I check up on them and we keep up with each other and just do life together. It doesn't have to be in person necessarily, but it's still real life. It's still connecting. It's still communicating. It's still the kingdom of God, whether it's in the flesh or in the digital flesh like we are right now. So I just kind of wanted to go over a few of those things to kind of give you an update on where I've been, where the podcast has been. We didn't post anything on social media for 2.5 weeks or so. We just didn't have the energy. I don't know if you've experienced COVID or not, but in my experience, it was just like you don't want to and you can't really do anything. You just sort of lay there. I just listened to a ton of music. I don't remember all of the albums I listened to, but I was just kind of digging into YouTube and just kind of listening to things, but really I was halfway there. It was an interesting time, and there was a lot of hopeless moments, to be honest. There was, especially when my wife was on the couch, I was like, God, what are we doing? How do we get out of this? It felt like there was no end to it because it was about 3.5 weeks, and even now as I'm recording this, I'm still not 100% at all. I still feel weak, still feel sluggish, still have that brain fog, still feel kind of like just low energy, and it'll be a month coming up this next Saturday. So it's been a slow process. I know that there's a lot of people out there that just lose their sense of taste and smell, and that's it, or have a cold like symptoms or whatever. That's amazing. I am super jealous of that because that was not our experience. Basically for us, it paused our life for most of the month of September, and when it's all said and done, all of September was pretty much paused. So that's where we've been, but I wanted to take a minute to celebrate what has happened over the past year. It's incredible. our next benchmark on our stats is 8,000 downloads of this podcast, which is honestly mind-blowing. And we didn't do it for that. We never thought it would even get to that. And there's still podcasts with millions of monthly downloads and things, but we just are happy to reach you, happy to be in your earbuds or your speakers right now or on your screen. And yeah, thanks for being a part of what God's doing through this thing. We feel like there's so much more ahead. I've got so many great guests to bring on, and interviews are coming soon, and all kinds of stuff's coming soon. So stay tuned for that. And if you're watching here on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon. That way you get notified when any videos come out, but our weekly podcast videos will come out every week, Friday at 5 a.m. Eastern. And until next time, stay safe, go make some music, and we'll see you then.